using the same rhetoric.
I would never be so low that I would imitate such a loser like Charlie Kirk.
The reasons why we're here right now, then you're choosing to do this now after Charlie Kirk was doing it for 16 years or however many years because he knew that the people, the young folks, were going to be the future.
I've been doing these events for
Charlie
a long
Kirk
time.
had the balls to talk against Israel.
So I have the balls to talk about it. What do you mean? I was in Israel, in the West Bank. I've been probably to Israel and Palestine.
Go to Gaza.
I've been there. Yes, to the West Bank. That's Gaza.
That's
Gaza.
not Gaza, homie.
I can't go to
That's
Gaza
Palestine.
right now while it's being bombed. I can't
Gaza.
go to Gaza while it's being bombed. I've done the homework. I know more about it than you, and more about it than Charlie definitely
Oh,
did.
you
I
do.
promise you.
You
Okay.
do.
Number one. Number two. All right.
You want to hear my credentials on Gaza?
At the end of the day. Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Hey, what's up? So, I generally consider myself like in the middle, but my question for you was, do you support a free Palestine?
I mean, it depends what you mean by free Palestine, I guess.
Okay, do you support the IDF being completely out of the borders of Gaza and the West Bank?
I think broadly speaking, yeah. It depends on what the new West Bank would look like, I guess, yeah. But, I mean, obviously, whatever the negotiated territory would be for a Palestinian state, ideally the IDF wouldn't be there, but, yeah.
Okay, and has Israel been committing a genocide?
I wouldn't say so, but...
No?
Not yet.
Not yet, really?
Yep, really, yep.
How come?
I just feel like the constituent elements of a genocide aren't necessarily there yet. I don't think the goal was to eliminate a group of people. I think that they were just really aggressively pursuing other aims that probably weren't good, but I just don't know if it would cross the threshold into genocide.
What about the indiscriminate bombing of civilian camps?
I think if there was indiscriminate bombing of civilian camps, I think the death count would have been way higher.
The death count is extremely high.
Not even close to what indiscriminate bombing would look like. And I think it was like 23 miles
Okay,
wide.
what about all the leveled hospitals, targeting hospitals?
Yeah, I mean, that sucks. It's bad.
Is that not genocidal behavior?
I don't think so. I think firing from hospitals is pretty bad behavior too, though, right? The issue is like Hamas conducts itself in a way to induce the maximum amount of civilian damage and casualties. So, I mean, it sucks. But
The IDF calls itself the most advanced military in the world, but they can't conduct operations where they go into buildings and kill specific targets. They have to bomb civilian hospitals where children are being treated and mothers are having their babies fertilized.
I mean, they have conducted special operations. They've conducted, larger bombings as well. I mean, war sucks. I don't know what you. I don't think there's ever been like a nice or a good.
It's not really a war, though. I mean, when you look at the power difference from both sides, and how long this has been going on since 1948, it's not a 2-year war. This is a very long problem, and right now it's a genocide.
Sure. I guess what would you have? What do you think the moral response would have been after October 7th?
Well, I think special operations to target leaders would have been the correct response, not bombing civilians, and even in some cases, shooting civilians, snipers targeting children and elderly women. And by the way, not just Muslims, but also targeting Christians outside of churches with sniper fire.
So what do you think?
That's not targeting Hamas leadership.
So what do you think? I mean, they did kill Hamas leadership.
I'm sure they did, but that's also not only what they did.
So you think after October 7th, you think they should have just try to kill like a few leaders and then that's it, and then wrap it up and go home, or?
I think they should have still targeted Hamas, which is not what they were doing. They clearly cut off electricity, food, water. They have a complete blockade. They block aid. They attack World Health Organization workers. They attack UN health workers. The flotilla.
Woo! Yeah, that sucked.
Yeah, like come on.
No, like the flotilla sucked. I'm sorry. The flotillas are just, I think they're props for...
Oh, come on, man.
I mean, they are, right? They were literally throwing all the food overboard. The Mari Mullah or whatever that left in 2010 from Turkey
and the drone strikes on the flotillas, that's not...
there were no drone strikes on the flotillas.
Seriously, there's videos.
There's a video of them shooting a flare and it falling back on themselves. There is no drone strike. You can look at the video. There's no exploded vessel. There's no massive, sinking ship. Like, it's pretty obvious what that was.
And what about the treatment of the people who they captured from the flotillas when they got to Israel?
You mean when they beat up Greta Thunberg and then she did an interview the next day and she doesn't have a single mark on her? I'm sorry, I'm not believing these people.
Well, that wasn't even something she alleged. She wasn't talking about that. She was talking about the experience and the conditions that the other Palestinians in that prison were in, which, by the way, are horrible conditions. She wasn't even mentioning that, so it's not something that she was trying to stand on.
Sure. Why do you think Hamas wouldn't just release all the hostages after taking them initially?
Okay, because if they release all the hostages, what incentive does Israel have not to just bomb the whole place?
Well, they weren't bombing them before October 7th, at least not as much, right?
Yes, they were. They definitely were.
At the same level? It's been the same level, really, for
Definitely not the
years?
same level. Definitely not the same level. but there was killing, and it is systematically trying to remove the people from the land. If you watch what some settlers do, and they're encouraged to do this, they go onto land, they steal houses with, they get armed by the Israeli military to go steal houses and beat up civilians, and it's encouraged.
So I'm not going to disagree on the settlers. I think it's a separate issue from Gaza.
So you do agree that that is a problem, though?
I think it's abhorrent. I think
The systematic colonization of the land. Do you think the land is being colonized right now?
I don't know if I would use the word colonized, but the expansion of the settlements and everything. Can somebody hit the volume on this speaker a bit? I hear the feedback. Whoever can do that over there. The expansion into the West Bank is unacceptable, and it's making it harder and harder or impossible to figure out any kind of like actual solution to the problem, for sure.
Okay, and when you say solution,
Cool. Okay.
what is your idea of a solution to that problem?
The solution is hard because in the West we conceptualize one solution, and then in Israel-Palestine, I think both sides conceptualize other solutions. Personally, like me and a lot of other people in the West that talk about it are fans of like the two-state solution, but the people in Israel and Palestine and Gaza, the West Strip, or in the West Bank, these guys don't necessarily favor a two-state solution, and it seems like there's kind of this vague idea of what a two-state solution would even look like. But I feel like the issue is neither side really feels any pressure to like move into some kind of like actual peaceful agreement. For Israel, they just get to keep expanding into the West Bank, and they get to enjoy the status quo.
I think that's what they want, though.
Yeah, for sure. But Palestinians, and especially some of the violent leadership like Hamas, also enjoys like violence because it furthers their political ends.
Not that I'm saying I support Hamas, by the way. I just support a free and unoppressed Palestinian people.
Sure.
Can you say that you agree with that?
Yeah, of course. I think everybody should be free and unoppressed as much as possible. But the question is, like, what does that look like? What does that final arrangement look like? And I feel like there are hard questions about what East Jerusalem looks like, and especially like the refugee stuff. Like, what does that look like? It feels like these are conversations that don't get talked about a lot in the West, and then there's not even any Palestinian leadership to talk to, I think largely because Netanyahu likes it that way, in Israel-Palestine.
For sure.
Yeah. But I guess my frustration is when we talk about things like genocide or apartheid, people like to throw these loaded words at the region, Israel-Palestine.
Well, now the UN did declare it a genocide, so I mean, the highest court legally declared it a genocide.
The International Court of Justice is different than just like whatever UN Special Rapporteur Committee. I don't know the UN says a lot of stuff. But the ICJ will eventually rule on it. Maybe they'll say that Israel, failed to prevent a genocide that is possible, but I think there has to be, like, at some point, like an understanding that the UN or the ICJ or the ICC is not going to save this region from a difficult negotiation, which neither side seems ready or willing or is being encouraged to actually participate in. Because I don't feel like anybody that wants to talk about, like, the genocide all day, like, I don't know, like, what's your conception of what a free Palestine looks like?
At the very least, Israeli troops completely outside of the borders and a Palestinian-run government. At the very least.
Sure, but like let's say that they completely withdraw. What are they withdrawing from? So like is all of East Jerusalem being left by Israel? Like it's not going to be given back because that's territory that's been like formally annexed at this point.
Well, I mean, if you ask me, it should be the 1948 borders. I get people sometimes might not agree with that. That's my personal opinion. But just at the very least, the borders before October 7th. At the very least.
Sure, but I think that's what Netanyahu wants to go back to, which is, I think, like the status quo.
I don't think that's what he wants. I think that's what he'll say, but I don't think it's what he wants.
Well, because prior to October 7th, like the Gaza Strip wasn't formally, there weren't IDF troops in the Gaza Strip. Like they still controlled the border, and there was a blockade and everything. Like they control what goes in and out. But they're like Hamas was the administration in the Gaza Strip, and there wasn't like IDF, presence there.
Unfortunately, when you oppress a people for about 80 years, they do rebel violently.
Okay, but I mean, when people rebel violently, they also get put down violently. So I don't know what the point of that.
I get that, but
yeah.
But
that doesn't do anything for us, right? Ideally, we want to get to some like end state where both people are happy. Do you think? So like the East Jerusalem question, I think is on the table, and then holy sites associated with that, and neighborhoods too, like where people lived. What about like refugee stuff? Because some people would say that a two-state solution is fine, but there should also be like an unlimited right of return for all of the refugees to come back into Israel proper. That's another issue on the table that nobody really seems, ready to address in any meaningful way.
And I think all of that is definitely a complex question. However, my main concern is to stop people from being indiscriminately bombed and genocided. So I understand that there's a lot more nuance, but that is my top goal here.
Okay.
But
So here's the issue, okay? So I appreciate the perspective, but I think it's worthless, and I think it actually plays into Israel's hands. Like, the idea is if there's some pain, if there's some bombings, if there's something, I would compare, I don't know what you're saying on Russia-Ukraine, but, like, I would want to see Ukraine restored to their former borders. But obviously there's a war going on, and the talking point that's often given is, well, we just need to stop the killing. The killing needs to stop. And, you know, for some people, there are things that matter more than just an individual life. Like, Ukrainians that are willing to fight and die for their country don't just want all the conflict to stop and to lose, 30% of their country to Russia, much the same that Palestinians back and forth fighting. But then the status quo there, I think, when things are kind of frozen, like is materially favoring Israel, because those settlements in the West Bank just get bigger and bigger and bigger, right?
I agree with you.
Yeah, so I wish that there was like a bigger push to have like a meaningful talk between Israel and Palestine. I don't know if you're familiar with like the 20-point plan that got proposed.
I am, and it doesn't really fully satisfy me. I appreciate the ceasefire. I'm pretty sure Israel already broke it.
Sure,
yeah.
I think, but I mean, yeah, I've seen back and forth on who broke it. But regardless, like, I would say that 20-point plan, I think, is atrocious. I think it gives Netanyahu...
It's not a good plan, but
yeah,
I mean,
because
it's at the very least a ceasefire.
Yeah, but it also allows Netanyahu to say they want to de-radicalize the Gaza Strip, whatever that means.
Right.
I don't even know if UNRWA like has permission to go anywhere over there anymore. The West Bank, now the Palestinian Authority, gets to be reformed in Netanyahu's vision. A guy who... was part of the party that arguably invented the "From the River to the Sea" slogan, right? The Likud, and it just seems like if there's not like a serious conversation about like what does an end state of affairs look like, and we just like look for peace or a ceasefire. Okay, well, I mean, like I said, yeah, I feel like the status quo politically kind of favors the Palestinians because the UN makes these rulings and everybody screams apartheid, genocide, or whatever. Materially, though, I think it's favoring, I think, Israel. We had, 100,000 settlers, I think, at the end of '67, and we're up to like 700,000 settlers in the West Bank now, and it's just getting worse and worse, I think. But, I appreciate the perspective. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Try to speak up because it's kind of hard to hear. Go ahead, sir.
How are you?
Hey, what's up? What's up?
Good. I got two questions now because I was pissed off before, but I just came up for criminal justice reform because something was mentioned before you got up here.
Okay.
Now, a little background on myself. I spent my whole life being an activist and fighting for criminal justice reform. I fought for voices that were unheard and families that didn't think that they had a voice. I fought to end solitary confinement in New York. I fought to limit qualified immunity. I fought so that inmates could have at their own convenience the ability to call their families and children at home. I choose to look at redemption and second chances. And one of the things that made me distance myself from the Democratic Party fully is that I sat there and fought for these people. I saw it as rehabilitation and second chances. I saw a different side of people that society chose to see. And when I looked at the Democratic Party campaigning, the biggest thing that they focused on, instead of actually policies, which that would have been enough to win the election, but instead they focused on criminal conviction, and he's a felon, and he's a felon, he's a felon. And that resonated with me, because now I'm sitting here dedicated my time to defending these people and changing their visual in society and giving them a second chance. And that rhetoric tore all that down. It replaced that stigma on these people who have done their time back in society and trying to rebuild their thing. How do you feel about that?
I can understand where you're coming from, but I feel like from a perspective of somebody who might have been a felon or might have served time, I feel like that rhetoric is probably some of the most important, because the big deal with Trump wasn't that he was a felon, it's that he avoided all the responsibility, all the culpability, all the accountability of the crimes that he committed. I feel like the big issue with Trump, and the reason why people kind of like fixate on this, is because people like to pretend that he did nothing wrong, which I think is kind of like the worst thing you can do for somebody that needs to reform their behavior or needs to change, like the course their life is on. And I think kind of inarguably, when we look at the Trump second term, like the lack of accountability is incredibly obvious, because he hasn't admitted to any faults or any mistakes, and he is barreling down the same pathway, 10 times the speed.
So prior to Trump, should a convicted felon have been president? Could have convicted felon have been president?
I believe so, yeah, right?
They can't vote, but I'm saying in your opinion. Because that rhetoric says that this person, that's all I heard.
Oh, for the
convicted felon shouldn't be president. Convicted felon. And in my mind, nobody should be judged by the worst days of their lives. 1,000%. And our criminal justice is far from perfect, and there's a lot of people who are wrongfully convicted because of that flawed system. So I don't look at anybody. In my mind, somebody's guilty when they're actually proven to it, not because the system says it. And honestly, I trust my life and I have this my entire life, to convicted felons more than I would some regular non-criminal folks. So that's where that rhetoric came in. And the second issue that I want to talk about.
Just to speak on that first thing, I like, if you're a convicted felon, you should be able to run for president or do whatever else. Like, I'm a big believer that if you serve your time or if you've gone through the process and you've gone through the system, then you're through the system, right? Like, I don't know what else, people Yeah, I mean, I agree with you insofar as that's it. But again, I would say that there's like two things going on. It's a little too loud because I can hear the feedback a little on the speaker or whoever's telling it. Okay. The issue that you run into is for Trump is the fact that since he didn't serve any time and there was no accountability, that's one of the reasons why the Democrats went in so hard on them. But then the second issue is that the Republicans are the ones generally that talk the big, no criminals, no felons. We need to deport everybody. We need to put people in prison. And because of that, I think that's another reason why the rhetoric was thrown at Donald Trump. I think when you look at the two parties, I think it's pretty clear which one is a bit more vindictive when it comes to, like criminal conviction related stuff. It's the same. Wait. Yeah. Once it gets turned down, don't turn it back up. Okay. Work on the speaker. Okay. I hear it over here. It's driving me crazy. Sorry. Okay. Let me reset. I think it's similar to when sometimes when there are Republican candidates that get outed for like gay scandals or whatever. I think when people on the left make fun of them, it's not because they become anti-gay, but it's just a little bit hypocritical because in every other circumstance, like conservatives are so big on punishing crime and punishing people as much as they can. I'm sure you, I don't know what your particular stance is on guns, but if you've ever filled out like a 4473, you have to fill out that question of like, are you an unlawful user of narcotics, including cannabis, marijuana? And they got Hunter Biden on like he had a gun, but he also did drugs at the same time. And for a group of people that are ordinarily so pro-gun and so anti-ATF, it was crazy to see all of them cheering and clapping for that Hunter Biden conviction.
Well,
so yeah,
that's what the parties are. It's a bunch of hypocrisy. Like for example, the last gentleman or the first gentleman talked about Palestine. Now, I would counter that argument and storytell. And do you think that Native Americans same logic?
I'm not going to disagree there. I think that gets hairy. But I would say that the hypocrisy on the conservative side is around almost every single issue right now. I would say that the hypocrisy on the left tends to be with kind of like the more activist crowd, but like the legislative crowd or the legal crowd or the elected people, I think it's very different worlds there.
But at least I give the conservatives in the red the credit because they at least take stances.
Well, but
I think that was
one
one
of
of
the
the
stances, and they change them constantly.
Yeah, but so do the Democrats.
I don't agree.
I absolutely agree. The fact that you can give an ambiguous answer and you can't. The fact that you mentioned October 7th like 40 times.
Yeah.
But what about October 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and every day up until this point? What about every day before? The fact that since that time you could only mention one day. And your excuse is, the numbers. You can't even let journalists in there to get the right numbers. That's number one. And your excuse is because of the numbers. So basically, since they suck at genocide, they can't be genocidal. That's basically what that logic comes into.
No, I think they could do a genocide pretty good if they wanted to. I mean, we can talk about other dates if you want. I mean, October 7th is when they came up, but...
Social media is the only reason why the Palestinian people have any kind of dignity and any life left. Because if that media blackout was not broken through independent sources, there would have been a full-fledged flattening of Gaza. And the fact that you can't even take a stance to make that full-fledged answer of it, that was the problem with the last election, is that they couldn't take one single stance to say, hey, you know what? Why? Because money talks.
Sure.
And I'm sorry, but you cannot put a value on somebody's life.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. You're just completely wrong, though. There wasn't widespread media in '48 when the Nakba happened. There were still 100,000, but there were still 100,000 Palestinian Arabs that were left in Israel. They didn't all get stomped then, so that didn't happen then. There wasn't widespread media coverage in '67 when they took the West Bank and the Gaza Strip and expanded into the Golan Heights. There are still Palestinians left there that weren't completely genocided without widespread media coverage. You had the whole first Intifada. You had the second Intifada. They were still there afterwards. So I mean, listen, I love Americans. You can come up and scream and get all hype or whatever. But the reality is, if you don't have like a solution for the problem, you don't have an actual way to fix things. Like you can get here and get indignant about it, but it's not going to get anybody anywhere. And that's all.
The great solution?
Yeah.
Let them figure it out. Why am I paying for it? Because you know what? When you start funding it or stop funding it, then a conversation's going to start.
No, then the conversation's going to end because then they're just going to kill them all.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they'll go turkey on it. They'll say, oh, well, we're not getting funding. We don't have any commitment to the West anymore.
Speculation, but the fact that you could
What's insane about that?
What's insane about it is that the
when
world...
a country to the north of them, it killed 500,000 Arabs. It happened in Syria. We saw 60,000 children starve to death in Yemen, right, over the past 10 years. You've seen how many people die in
Congo
Sudan.
And Sudan.
You've seen how many people... No, I'm not even going all the way, we don't have to go that far there now. I'm just saying that the region is a very violent region.
How much of that are we paying
for? How much of that...
How much of that are we paying for?
Is that the only issue that you have with it?
No, it's not the only issue, but I have a problem.
Let's say that we stop supporting Israel monetarily. Are you like, oh, okay, well, if they want to genocide them, at least we're not paying for it. Now you're cool with it?
I'm not cool with it, but you know what? That is a leverage point. The same gentleman, I'm glad he brought the point up. Why release the hostages? Because Israel's bombing the shit out of them, killing their own hostages, bombing the shit out of them beforehand. That
Yeah,
was
so it
their
doesn't seem
only leverage point, and you
What was
wanted
the
them to give
leverage?
out their
What was the
hostages.
leverage? What was the leverage?
Human bodies.
No. What did they get for the leverage? You said they still got bombed. It wasn't
They
helping.
still got bombed. The
Yeah,
whole
so
ceasefire deal was to at least hold on to that little bit of leverage, and then
No.
returned them, and they're still getting
The
bombed now.
reason why they held on to them is because they wanted the fighting to continue.
Of course.
Why? What else did they get?
Of
The
course.
fighting continued, didn't it?
It is going to continue because
Yeah.
nothing's being done about it because there's no penalty, there's no repercussion.
I
the
agree
fact that
with
we
that.
we've collected. The world doesn't agree on not a single thing in this world, ever. And that's one thing that they can agree on is that it's the genocide and war crimes are being committed. That is the world against us. That has never happened in my history of my life. And you have viewers saying, "Oh, they're not credible. They can say whatever they want."
I'm not,
How does that
if
make
you
sense?
the quibbling is over the specific term of genocide. If you want to say that war crimes have happened, I absolutely agree with that.
And
If you
your
wanna say-
defense to why genocide is not a genocide is because the numbers aren't there.
No, it's
so
not.
because
it has
they
nothing
suck
to do
at
with the numbers.
genocide
It has nothing to do
is
with the
because
numbers. It's you don't care about any of the dead people. You understand that,
I
right? If
don't.
you want to sit up here and you want to obsess over the use of one term, and then you want to go back to the status quo, which, by the way, that's what Netanyahu wants anyway. That favors Israel. The status quo is good for them. If you just want to obsess over the word, like, fine, the whole world can say it's a genocide. How far have they gotten? How much is the Declaration of Genocide
All right,
from
well-
the 57th Independent UN Commission?
So-
how much closer? No, tell me, how much closer has it gotten them to an actual peaceful agreement? We're at the 20-point plan, which is Netanyahu's wet dream. How much of the
Are you-
genocide
are you
accusations
finished?
helped?
Are you
I
finished?
want you to tell me how much the genocide accusations have helped.
I'm gonna tell you how it helps.
Okay.
Of those killed, how many were Hamas and how many were women and
I
children?
didn't hear an answer to my question.
How many
I want you to
were
tell
children?
me. I want you to tell me how much has the genocide accusations helped? How much closer are we now than we were to October
It has
6th?
helped a lot because when that
How?
word started being brought out, more investigations started happening. And people started doing it, and organizations that are not affiliated with either side started putting their foot forward and saying, hey, let's see if this is actually true. These numbers haven't moved up at the scale that they were moving up at a point. Let's see why that is. Where are journalists? Why aren't our organizations that are unaffiliated not being allowed in? Why is aid not being there? Why are people starving? All of that
All
happened
I'm
because
hearing
we
is
started
nothing.
using
So
those
nothing
trigger
has
words.
happened?
So because we started
So
using the
nothing has
words is the
happened.
reason why they started actioning happening.
Gotcha. So nothing
Now-
has happened. Nothing will happen, right?
In the
Everything you're saying,
future
you're
of
talking,
it,
and
the
I
strategy, if
understand.
I wanted to genocide a people,
Yeah.
what I would do is stop the reproduction. So I would kill the women and children, which are the next generation in lineup, and hopefully stop going down from there. You know where they did that? The United States did that to Puerto Rico when they tried to sterilize the women in Puerto Rico to control the population. Bet you don't speak about that. Did you know that? Did you know the United States? I used to be.
I bet there's a lot of things that I don't
I
know.
used to
you know,
defend,
the
so-
largest revision in death in the Gaza Strip was the revising down the number of women and children killed because they realized that those numbers initially were there was a huge discrepancy between the Gazan Health Ministry
But
and
reported
the
by
media
who?
arm, reported by Hamas and reported by the Gazan
Now-
Ministry of Health. But I'm just saying that like at the
Where
end
do
of
the
the day,
Hamas leaders live?
well, right now I don't even know how many are left alive.
Where do they live? Do you think they live in Gaza?
Well, they were getting killed in Qatar and in
Oh,
Syria.
so they're not.
a lot of them weren't.
in
No,
Gaza.
correct.
Okay.
I think
so.
Sinwar
Just
was
like when
killed
we
in
target the
Gaza, and Dave
cartels
was supposed to
in
be
other
Gaza,
countries,
but-
the cartels, a lot of those real, actual cartel leaders live here. So you can kill the pawns of Hamas all you want, and all you're doing
Well,
is
they killed
creating
the
a
leadership of
perpetual.
Hamas as well, right?
One guy, and if
No,
that's
they
if we
ki-
even
no,
know that that's
way
the guy.
more than one guy, and we do know they killed a lot of Hamas leadership.
Gotcha.
Can I just say, okay, my issue with this is that, okay, because every time I debate, people that are on your side, I understand the pro-Palestinian side, is people assume that I'm this crazy Zionist. The Netanyahu's behavior has been insane. I think that the amount of death has been crazy. I think that there are like clear examples,
And he gets praised here like a
of-
hero.
Yeah, because boomers love fucking Israel because they're boomers and they're retarded. I mean, I agree with you. It's crazy. It's horrible. But like when the fixation just becomes like as long as we declared a genocide, like we're good. It's like that hasn't gotten us anywhere. We haven't gotten anywhere. All the terms, all the apartheids, all the genocides. Bet Salem is like the organization in Israel that's
Nothing
keeping track of
has
the
gotten
Palestinian
us
issue.
anywhere.
I agree, but what has to happen is like a real thing needs to happen. So like right now, Trump is a total Israeli sycophant. So the U.S. won't do anything because Trump just wants to move on from it.
We spent
right?
2 years under Biden or a year under Biden of it.
True, but I mean, like Biden at least had a little bit more restraint on the Israeli side than
No, he
Trump
didn't.
does on Netanyahu. You think that
He said a shit ton of money for that to happen.
yeah, but do you think that Trump and do you think that Biden gave the same length of leash
I
to
think they're
Netanyahu?
two birds of the same feather. That's what I think.
So the political party that arranged the JCPOA, the
I'm
nuclear
not gonna.
agreement,
So
the
here's the
nuclear deal
thing:
with
you're not
Iran.
going to convince me party rhetoric. I'm people over party all day, every time.
People,
I don't
what
listen.
do you talk about? Parties are the government that run our foreign policy.
Yeah,
The people
unfortunately,
don't
that's the creation
No,
that
that's not
y'all
unfortunate.
did.
That's the
And that's the
apparatus
reason
of
why we have
government.
no, absolutely not. Parties are the destruction of this country.
That doesn't make it. It's like saying I like white blood cells more than the immune system for fighting disease. It doesn't make any sense. You have to have the whole apparatus. A bunch of people are going to pick up rifles and go to Gaza and fight off the IDF. Like you have to work through the establishment system that, right?
I'm glad you're not leading our military strategy, for damn sure.
How many wars have ended because a person took? Like, what are you talking about?
First off, the fact that we are having these barbaric wars in modern day times is ridiculous. The fact that it's costing us this much, the reason why I bring up the cost so much is because do you know how much it costs to fix homelessness here in America?
No, it's
estimated about $20 billion a
yeah,
year.
there's no way that's true.
There's no way?
I don't think so.
There's no way.
I don't think so.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess you're right, because if you think about it, if only you can kill off half of Gaza with, what, 100 billion? There's enough to kill off all the people. I guess you can't feed them.
Well, I
with
mean,
that
if you
amount.
were actually indiscriminate bombing, you could probably do it for a lot cheaper. But what is the estimated number of homeless people in America? Do you know? I'm not trying to quiz you.
I don't know the exact number, but I know 18% of that number is veterans.
Okay. Isn't this like do you know the number, Brian? You should know this. Number of total homeless people in America. Who knows it? I'm going to make a guess that it's in excess of 1 million people.
Too many.
My guess is in excess of 1 million people.
Too many.
So when somebody says like $20 billion would fix it, like what would that be, like $20,000 a year per person? Like, and it's probably the number's probably greater than that. Like, I think homelessness is an issue that requires money and like political will. But because everybody views homeless people as either political props or subhuman, I just don't think there's like the will in America to get anything done. And because Republicans won't talk about it because they all moved
But
to the West Coast.
that's where it
everything.
comes to political party polarization, like I mentioned. The parties are the ones creating the divide.
Yeah, but
for
who-
example,
but if
who
you-
has run Chicago for the longest time is Democrats.
If you gave
and
them-
so the Republicans use Chicago, which is one of my favorite cities here in this country, as such a negative crime-ridden country. And I've walked the streets of Chicago. I've been on the south side where they say is the worst parts. And it's kind of sketch sometimes, but that's everywhere you go.
Yeah, I agree.
But the fact that they have, in the time that they've run Chicago this whole entire time, haven't said, hey, let's work on Chicago and put the resources where we really need to be so that they can stop using that as a talking point, that's where I have a problem. But because the divide and polarization keeps us apart, that's the reason why parties suck.
Okay, I'm curious. Let's say that we want to fix homelessness next year, and you could give one party all the power, the Supreme Court, Congress, and the president. Do you think that the Republicans and the Democrats would have the same capacity to fix that problem, to take the same approach?
Neither of them are. It's not.
No,
It's
what
not
if
beneficial
so if you
for
had to
them.
pick one, you think it's the same? You think it's a wash either way?
I don't think I should pick either one. 56% of all registered voters right now are independent voters. People are leaving their parties in droves. That number before the 2024 election was only about 54, 53.
Are you thinking about people that haven't voted, or?
No, I'm talking about registered voters right now are 56 to 57% independent registered.
That sounds way too high.
That is absolutely true. Check it out. Yeah. Nevada won. Nevada is a purple, whatever color you want to
is
put
that
it.
just in states that don't require you to like be registered to
That
a party
is
to vote in the primary?
National Voter Registry.
Okay, regardless, you
And the
think
reason
that-
why is because of every one of you young folks out here. Because
do you
y'all are
think-
at least doing the due diligence
do you think-
to sit there and register like you want. You're not saying, I'm going to pick a side and put on a team jersey. You're saying, talk to me. Let me hear what you got to say. Because they're the reasons why these elections have changed ways.
Sure,
They're
but
the
at the-
reasons
at
why
the
we're
end of the
here right
day-
now. And then you're choosing to do this now after Charlie Kirk was doing it for 16 years or however many years because he knew that the people, the young folks were going to be the future. And that's why you're here trying to imitate the exact same thing.
First of
but
all, I'm not
you're
trying to.
spitting
I
the
would
same
never.
rhetoric.
I would never be so low that I would imitate such a loser like Charlie Kirk. Number one, okay. Number two, okay. I've been doing these events for a
Charlie
long
Kirk
time.
had the balls to talk against Israel.
So I have the balls to talk about it. What do you mean? I was in Israel, in the West Bank. I've been probably to Israel and Palestinian
go to
territories
Gaza.
more than I've been there. Yes, to the West Bank. That's Gaza.
That's
not
not
Gaza.
Gaza,
I've been there. I
homie.
can't go to
That's
Gaza right now while it's
Palestine.
being bombed.
It's not
I can't
Gaza.
go to Gaza while it's being bombed. But I've been to the West Bank. Okay, I've had a Palestinian tour guide. I've been there. I've done the homework. I know more about it than you, and more about it than Charlie definitely.
Oh,
did.
you
I
do.
promise you.
You
Okay.
do.
Number one. Number
You.
two. All right.
You want to
At
hear
the
my
end of the day-
you want to hear my credentials on Gaza?
At the end of the day, you have to work through some apparatus. When you come out, you just say, "Oh, both sides are the same. Oh, who matters? It doesn't matter who you vote for. Oh, let's all be independent." Nothing's gonna get done.
I'm gonna tell you my credentials on Gaza.
Okay.
So after October 7th, I was running for office, and someone very close to me reached out and said, "Hey, I have a family, an American family in Gaza stuck, beginning before the heavy, harsh bombing started." And I said, why can't they come out? They said, they're not letting anybody out. I said, but they're American. They said, they don't care. Their passports lapsed because of the delay, and they weren't allowed in Jerusalem to get their passports reinstated. Do you know I took that job on It's a family of 5. I contacted every single Democratic congressman that I had contact to. One, they didn't care because they were Utah residents. So they're like, contact that representative. I'm like, I'm contacting you. You sit next to that person. Talk to him. No one wanted to help. The one person that actually did help me, surprisingly, I won't say his name, but is a Republican hella Zionist on TV. But I at least sat down with him and he said, you know what? I don't care where they're from or who they are. I agree with you that they are Americans. Let me get their passports expedited. Let me see what we can do. And we did it. We got it there. We got it done. We sent them to Egypt and they got them through Cairo and we got them out of Gaza, that family of 5. Where were the Democrats then?
How old were the people in this family?
One, the youngest was 10, turned 11 as soon as he got back here.
How do they get into their passports were close to expiring? Normally, if it's within 6 months, they won't even let you in another country.
They moved there. They had initially moved there for the grandfather's business.
To live in Gaza?
To live in Gaza. That's what they were.
Okay.
And then all of this stuff happened. They tried to renew their passports. They were not getting allowed in situations. We did that. A Republican Zionist congressman helped me get that done.
So are all Republicans good now? I don't know
No,
what
but I'm
supposed
just
to take
saying
from that story.
that's
Like,
what happens. That's the result when you take party out of it. When you
No,
talk
that's
to
the
somebody
result.
as a person,
That's-
as part of, instead of their party affiliation, and
this
start
is
grouping
great
everybody
for the
together.
5 people that you helped, but what does this have? This doesn't get us
Well,
anywhere.
imagine
in
if
regards to
I
the-
can help 5 people. Imagine if you sat there, took a side, and said, "Hey, let me help another 5 people." I used to be hella anti-gun until I started getting informed of my own history. Used to be hella anti-gun, and I used to think, "Hey, the military." We're not going to overthrow the military. They have all this arsenal of everything going on. And then I got to travel and campaign all across this wonderful country. I met people of all different ages, genders, and races. And I was in Alabama, one of my great friends, and he sat there and he said he loves his gun. He has every fucking possible arsenal of gun you can have. And I said, why do you like it? And he said, well, because I'm going to defend my rights. And I said the same thing. Your military, they're never going to turn. I used to think that. They're never going to turn the military against us. And what are you going to do? And he said, I'll tell you what I can do. I'm probably going to die, but I'm going to take out 5 people. And if I could take out 5 people, numbers are coincidental, someone else can take out. Someone take out, the people overpower it. And I used to think that the United States would never turn their army until I found out in 1950 when Puerto Ricans like myself were trying to fight for independence, and the United States bombed Puerto Rico. U.S. citizens. That magically gets erased from history. So there you go.
Okay.
We gotta go.
All right, I'll go.
All right, quick announcement.